our two speakers. The sort of star of the show today is Jinshiro Motoyama, and he is a PhD student at Totsubashi University. But he's a notable PhD student because he's been one of the leaders of a number of movements essentially protesting against the presence of the military bases in Okinawa and against the construction of the new military base at Henoko, sort of in the northeast of the main island of Okinawa. So he's a founding member of Students Against Secret Protection Law, Students Emergency Action for Liberal Democracy, and Students Emergency Action for Liberal Democracy, UQ. UQ being Okinawa, for those of you who are not familiar with that. And then chairing the discussion and sort of moderating it will be Dr. Ra Mason, who's Associate Professor of International Relations and Japanese Foreign Policy at the University of East Anglia. Ra has done a lot of work on Okinawa. He had a JSPS fellowship while he was teaching at the University of Central Lancashire to research nationalism in Okinawa. So he spent time at the University of the Ryukyus there. He then became Associate Professor of Public Policy at Tohoku University. And he's also co-authored a number of books and articles about Japan's foreign policy and security, and written for various forums, including the Asahi Shimbun's Asia-Japan Watch. So I think the way we're going to do this is that Ra is going to give a brief introduction, and then we'll move on to the main presentation.
Thank you, James. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Jason and to Nana-san and to everyone here at the Daira Foundation for having me down here. It's an absolute delight to be here. I very rarely get the chance to come down all the way from Norwich on the train, so very exciting and very happy time. The topic is slightly more serious, I would say, than the glorious weather that we get to see today. So, shifting over to that, I'd just like to provide a little bit of context, really, for the debate or for the discussion, and to relate to what Motoyama-san might have to say. I think it's worth bearing in mind a couple of things when it comes to US military bases in Okinawa. The first is that US military bases as a whole take up a vast swathe of territory across the planet. This includes some 750 bases, 750,000 troops, and something like 700 or more bases. So you've got a huge network of troops and bases across the planet, and within that, Japan is probably, I think, the second or third largest number of troops and bases. So you have 50,000 plus troops in Japan. If you compare that to something like something like less than 10,000 in the UK, for example, as a very close alliance partner of the United States, it puts into stark contrast the extent to which the US has this network of bases. Within that, you have probably nearly half of those US troops stationed on Okinawa, and you have over 70% of the total number on Japan in terms of actual basing stationed on the islands of Okinawa. So you have this vast network of US military bases, and within that, Okinawa has a vastly disproportionate number of those and a large number of troops. So that's the context within which we're talking. Having said that, I think there's maybe 2 points in order to provide a little bit of balance to the discussion that I would like to put out there to go with this. The first is the way that the debate, the discussion of military bases on Okinawa tends to be framed within academia, the wider press, and within other kind of public sphere. And that firstly is in what we might call the political left. So the political left tend to frame this as a kind of righteous struggle in some ways of the Okinawan people vis-a-vis an oppressor or an oppressive kind of military alliance between the United States and Japan. And often to the extent of being kind of colonized or neo-colonized, and Okinawans fighting in order to kind of emancipate themselves or free themselves. And I find this quite problematic because it removes a lot of the agency of Okinawans. On the other side of the political spectrum, we have what we might call the political right, and this tends to frame the debate in terms of Japan, the United States, and the international security arena, shall we say. In other words, the balance of power between the Western Pacific and the East China Sea, with Okinawa forming this key part, so-called keystone, of the first island chain, which is this arc of the Ryukyu island chain stretching from Kyushu through the Amamis, through the Ryukyus, down to the tip of Taiwan. So the problem with that, which is equally problematic, is that it completely ignores the actual lived experiences of Okinawans on Okinawa. So you have these two political spectrums which kind of frame the debate, and they both create problems of a kind of universal analysis, which then becomes very difficult. Right? So we need a way to discuss US military bases on Okinawa which actually engages with both sides of that argument. And I might, just before I hand over to Motoyama-san to hear his thoughts on this and his research and experiences, also point out one or two very brief points of kind of contestation within that debate, right, which seem to be contradictory. For example, very often we have on the one side Okinawa depicted as having fought a struggle in order to be free from American occupation and gain reversion back to Japan. And this took place in 1972, but it's very often seen simply as, in simplistic terms, as a struggle that was won, and Okinawa was then successful in being handed back to Japan, reverting. But in fact, if you look at the US foreign policy side of this, there were various other incentives for that reversion. So there was a lot of US agency involved in that. So I'd like to kind of discuss that a little bit more as we go further into the discussion later in the Q&A. I'd also like to point out that the agency of Okinawans from the other side is very contested. So on the one hand, you have a majority of Okinawans who are in favour of the US-Japan security alliance, but then you also have an overwhelming majority of Okinawans who would like to see bases reduced in number and scale, and who are opposed to the building of a new base on a pristine marine site at Henoko Bay. And that is what we'll get to hear more about, I think, from Motoyama-san. So I will hand over with that and look forward to the discussion and the speech from Motoyama-san. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Jinshiro Motoyama. I'm from Okinawa, Japan. Thank you so much for the kind introduction and framework. Today's my talking and later discussion. And as you can, I will give my talk first, and then after that we'll discuss about the Okinawa military base issue, and then finally we will have a question Q&A time with the audience. As you can see, I just conducted a hunger strike in front of the Prime Minister's office and National Diet in this May, from May 9th to 15th, just taking the salt and water. And thanks to the journalist from The Guardian, it was also in the news here in the UK. You can read it online. I'm really grateful to the Daiwa Foundation to give me who can be considered as quite controversial in Japan, an opportunity to talk here from Okinawa for Okinawa Week. I hope my lecture helps you to understand Yukenteria's artworks more deeply from a political perspective. And this is today's goal. First of all, understand the military base problems in Okinawa is the most, I think, important goal of today. And the second one is a little bit tricky, but base issues are not only the matter of national security or politics, but the human rights. And the third one is, if you agree with my lecture or my activity, please support the Okinawans or should help to solve the base issues in Okinawa. And I had a bit research about the foundation, the Daya Foundation, and I found that the Daya Foundation organizes events to increase understanding of Japan in the UK. And I believe my talk on Okinawa could be a key to deepen your understanding of Japan through issues around human rights violation, national security, and US bases, and attitude of Japanese governments, which is also related to whether you embrace the UN, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Especially my talk touches the issues on environmental issue caused by the bases, as well as how the peace and human rights of local people in Okinawa has been undermined. And this is the position of Okinawa. Maybe most of you visited Okinawa, or maybe not. We have 1.4 million population and 2,281 square kilometers of the area of Okinawa. It means 1.5 times larger than London, and capital is not a city. From London to Okinawa, approximately 10,000 kilometers, which takes around 15 hours via Tokyo. And if you book in advance flight tickets, it only costs 400 pounds. So I am waiting for you to come. Also, this distance between Okinawa and Tokyo is huge, around 1,600 kilometers, which is same distance as between London to Lisbon, Portugal, or London to Bosnia-Herzegovina. So you can imagine how far between Okinawa and Tokyo, and how the culture, language, and history are so different. And I will show you some features of Okinawa. There's a unique musical instrument here. This one, it's called sanshin, and you can actually see the play at the film screening exhibition on second floor. One of the Tereyuken's artwork, and traditional martial arts called karate. This is a Shuri Castle, symbol of Ryukyu Kingdom. Also, after this talk, our partner company Kanasa will serve a shikwasa drink. Okay. This is shikwasa, a picture of shikwasa, and which is quite unique and healthy fruits only grown in Okinawa. And this is a history of Ryukyu or Okinawa. The kingdom of Ryukyu, the independent nation of Okinawa, was established in 1429. The kingdom of Ryukyu prospered for 450 years until 1879, governing its islands and trading with neighboring countries, including China, one of the major powers in Asia at that time, and also in present. In 1609, Satsuma, now part of Kagoshima prefecture, invaded Ryukyu kingdom and partly governed Okinawa. And despite resistance of Okinawa Ryukyu, Okinawa was forced to become a part of Japan in 1879, when Japan's new Meiji government abolished Han and established prefectural nationwide. And as you can see, the right-hand side, the top right-hand side documents the Ryukyu Kingdom was considered as a sovereign country, which had a diplomatic ability to conclude treaties with foreign countries such as US, France, and the Netherlands. Unfortunately, the Ryukyu Kingdom didn't have a treaty with the United Kingdom, but British ship visited to Ryukyu several times from the end of 18th centuries. One thing I want to mention here is there's a British ship called Indian Oak ship is in Chatham town. The ship is in the playground, and then children, also including me, they played there. It says like the 67 crew members of the ship were rescued by the local residents of in Chatham, Okinawa, Ryukyu Kingdom at the time, who then helped rebuild the ship, allowing the crew to sail home safely. So there's a relation between UK and Ryukyus. Then also I showed a picture. This is the picture of Jinduikan Jiken in 1903, where people from Ryukyu were put in a cage to be displayed at the museum with other indigenous people such as Ainu, Koreans, Chinese, and Taiwanese, showed how the mainland of Japan distinguished themselves from the other undeveloped people and gained the imperial power to expand later on. And then the war happened. I won't go in detail here, but a quarter of local Okinawans were killed by either Americans or Japanese at that time. In the end, Okinawa was taken by US, and in 1952, in exchange for an end to the occupation, Japan allowed the United States or other countries to retain control, United States to retain control of the prefecture. The Okinawa had been occupied until 1972, or I may say even today, because after the 50 years of reversion, we are still suffering from the same issue. As you can see, this is the front page of Ryukyu Shimpo, the local newspaper. It said they made the very same title of the newspaper. This is the newspaper of 1972, May 15th, and then this is this year's May 15th. They put the same title of the newspaper. It's really shows the continuous suffering in Okinawa. And this this graph shows the military base area of US military base in Japan and Okinawa. Then what I want to highlight here is the burden of Okinawa is quite huge. We have only 0.6% of Japan's total land area, but it hosts 70.3% of US military facilities in Okinawa, as mentioned from Professor Ra. And this is the US military bases are highlighted color orange. It says Marine Corps, US Marines are colored by orange. And then the blue one is Air Force, and others are Marine, Navies, and Army, US combat. And then, can you imagine the size of the military bases in Okinawa? But if you have been to Tokyo, the size is equal to the combination of more than 13 administrative districts, including Shinjuku and Shibuya. And additionally, the size of the US military bases on Okinawa is equal to 1/9 area of London. If that's so, like 1/9 area were occupied by US military base in London. Can you imagine this? Then, if so, like, how do you feel it? And this is the graph shows the shift of how the bases in mainland of Japan have been relocated to U.S. government Okinawa due to the anti-U.S. military movement in Japan. And thus, the people often misunderstand that there is always U.S. military bases in Okinawa. However, the truth is not. Japanese government didn't want the U.S. military base in their homeland, yet they needed them for national security and decided to sacrifice Okinawa to host those bases. Like for example, besides the reorganization of U.S. military within Okinawa, the Futenma Air Station's facility and units are composed by Atsugi Air Station is in Kanagawa Prefecture, and Iwakuni Air Station also in Yamaguchi Prefecture, or other units came from Yamanashi Prefecture, Shizuoka, Gifu, Osaka Prefectures. So that those bases or units came to Okinawa during the 1950s to 1960s. And one of the biggest U.S. military base issues is related to Futenma Henoko base relocation. The Japanese government contends the project is the only viable solution to resolving issues concerning the Futenma facility, a long-time source of complaints over deafening aircraft noise and the potential danger of accidents as the base sits in a densely populated residential area. The plan was made in 1995. 3 U.S. Marine soldiers kidnapped and raped a 12-year-old girl. It triggered the accumulated anger of Okinawa people, and U.S.-Japan government decided to return Futenma Air Base, however, only under the condition of a relocation within Okinawa by establishing a new base in Henoko, just 52 kilometers away from the original base area. This is the protest assembly on 1995, rape incidents. And this is the picture of the former, before World War II, Battle of Okinawa. It shows this area is the present Futenma Air Station, but we have villages or shrines or paths or even train railway in these areas. And then the present Futenma Air Station, and there is elementary schools, junior high school, and high schools. One of the high schools, Futenma High School, I graduated this high school, and then my home is around here. I came here today, and then one thing I want to mention is Okinawa International University. In 2004, the fiery explosion and crash of U.S. helicopter into a building at Okinawa International University on August 13th has touched off the most intense anti-base movement. Fortunately, thanks to the summer vacation, no one there was not even one casualty in the accident. Yet it also driven an anger and fear of Okinawans. Then this is also another incident, dropped object from U.S. military helicopters. This is the part of helicopters, and it dropped the kindergarten, and then this is the window or frame dropped at the elementary school or playground. Then this is the map of the present plan of Henoko, the new construction of new base in new marine base. You can see this is the Futenma airfield, Futenma Air Station, and then this is the place Henoko in Nago City. just 52 kilometers from original area. And most people in Okinawa think that relocation plan will change nothing. Technically, it is said that construction is impossible to build a base at Henoko because of its soft land and too long depths. Also, the U.S. Marines press officer commented that they will not return the Futenma Air Station due to the limited capacity of Henoko, or anyway. The shortage, for example, the shortage of runway. In Futenma, the Marines have 2,700 meters runway, but in Henoko, they have only, 1,400 meters. So it's really short runway. So that is one reason the U.S. Marine don't want to return Futenma Air Station if the construction will be successful. And also, Henoko Oro Bay holds more than 5,000 species in its water, including around 260 known to be endangered, like dugong, similar to manatee, and sea turtle, or other species in underwater. Several new and previous unrecorded species have been recently found, and some scientists believe there could be more yet to be discovered. There's a huge coral reef. It says, I heard that this coral reef lives like 3,000 years or 4,000 years in the ocean, but it says like the construction plan, it may disappear but it says this endangered. Then this is the result of Okinawa prefectural referendum in 2019. I deeply joined this movement, and 72% opposed to the relocation of U.S. military base within Okinawa prefecture. Yet Japanese governments have not been listening the voices of referendum. From here, I would like to mention the general but crucial U.S. military base issues in Okinawa. As you can see, this is the drum, contaminated defoliants in drum found in football field in 2014. And the defoliant was supposed to be used during the Vietnam War. And also radioactive wastes, including cobalt-60, found in the post-US military training area, which is now registered to the World Natural Heritage. And then US military's fire extinguished composition from Futenma Air Station in 2020, which contain toxic and harmful PFOS, also known as the forever chemical. They are stable compounds that bioaccumulate in blood and several tissues in both people and animals. Then this is the map. The PFAS can be found in the previous and present U.S. military bases. This shows that there is a Cadena Air Base, and this is the Futenma Air Station, and surrounding that there's a wells or rivers around here, and then it says they found PFAS, the forever chemicals, from the wells or rivers. And this is PFAS contamination in human body in different regions. You see the right-hand side. This is it says Okinawa City, which has a Cadena Air Base. People living in Okinawa City indicates that highest PFAS rates, especially comparing to the average. This is the average Japanese people on the left hand side. It's really a high percentage of the PFAS is in their body, blood. These issues as a whole have been recognized by the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination or even Human Rights Council, indicating that these concentration of US military bases on Okinawa is one of the contemporary forms of racism based on not always visible but more systematically structured hidden discrimination, and recommends extensive consultation with representatives of the Okinawan people or to monitor discrimination from 2010. Japan Federation of Bar Association, Nihon Bengoshi Rengokai, Association of Attorney at Law, also recommends opinion calling for efforts to promptly remove and return the Futema Air Station. According to, they said, according to Article 16 of Hague Convention on the Laws and Customs of War on Land, as of October 1907, private land cannot be confiscated, it says. And thus most of the land used for military base in Okinawa, either the prefecture or municipalities and private citizens. This is the percentage of US military bases of Okinawa. Just the military land of Okinawa, and this is the mainland one. So on the other, like 77% of the land used for military bases in Okinawa are either the prefectural and private citizens, not nation-owned. Therefore, it clearly indicates that US violates the international treaty, and with Japan gave tacit approval to the US. Then I sometimes asked, some people might think Okinawa needs military bases because they can get money from hosting them. The percentage of base-related revenue in the Okinawa economy significantly declined from 30% in 1965 before Okinawa's reversion to Japan to 15.5% immediately after reversion to an even lower rates at 5% these days. This also shows how the Okinawa government, Okinawa prefectural government or city government get economic effects if the US military base has returned. It says like in Naha urban area, it says 32-fold of the direct economic effects, and then also the Oroku Kanagusu area, it's 14-fold, and Kwae Tamai area, it's called Chatan area, was 108-fold higher direct economic effect, and also tax revenue effect is get higher if the US military base was returned. And one more thing is misunderstanding of security issues. So firstly, 60% of US military bases on Okinawa are used by US Marines. Japan, US agreed on relocation of US Marines from Okinawa to Guam in 2012. Then if 9,000 Marines out of 19,000 are moved to Guam, Australia, Hawaii, and mainland US, why do they still or need to have new Marines bases in Okinawa? Second, having a concentrated base brings only a ring, but not a peace for the local Okinawans and even national security. Joseph Nye, Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs pointed out, as China invests in advanced ballistic missiles, the fixed base on Okinawa become increasingly vulnerable. This is the comments of the U.S. government officials that I mentioned Joseph Nye's comment, but the other officials also pointed out they didn't say Okinawa is the only relocation site. So it means like Japanese government decide the relocation site in Henoko, or they want to concentrate U.S. military bases in Okinawa. It is not the U.S. side who wants to keep constructing the bases in Okinawa, but it is Japan's will. Those previous and current U.S. ministers of defense, or even the vice presidents, commented as interview that they do not care about the place, as well as Japan continue to give incentive for them. Most importantly, it is not only Futenma or Henoko, but we will still have many bases in Okinawa, as you saw the map of the bases in Okinawa. From the Okinawa residents' point of view, as I was born and raised there, the concentration of the bases are so fearful for the present days, these days. And I want to just conclude my talk a little bit longer and then bunch of information. In the conclusion, to go back to the first point, I hope you get my point and why I conducted a hunger strike for this year of 50 years of anniversary of reversion. I even do not want to use the word celebrate it. I have a Japanese, of course, passport, considered as Japanese, yet, as I explained, I do not think Okinawans are given and enjoy the human rights as same as the other Japanese people. I think Japanese government should listen to those Okinawans and to show their visions and to take action in facilitating peaceful international relations with the other neighboring East Asian countries. I think we are all tired of war and conflicts, and I think our grandparents who experienced the war, Battle of Okinawa, do not want Okinawa to be militarized or never the war happen again in Okinawa. I will make an effort to Okinawa to be a center of peaceful international interaction with those countries, East Asian countries. If you agree with my activity, and it would be appreciated if you can support through signing on online petition. Maybe it's on change.org or something. Yes, that's all. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Motoyama. So that was absolutely fantastic. I would maybe like to just pitch a couple of questions to you, and then we'll open up for discussion to everyone. So, I mean, clearly, you have a lot invested in this. You've done a lot of careful research. In terms of what you've done so far, and your colleagues and friends on Okinawa, to what extent do you think your movement and protesting in general has served its purpose, has worked? What are the results of your hunger strike and your broader struggle?
Okay. It's really difficult to say the instant results. It's really long span movement or action. What I'm taking is so. I deeply joined the movement of referendum, the Okinawa prefectural referendum held in 2019. And at the time, the Okinawans people who against the construction of military base in Henoko said we showed our will through the elections, such as Okinawa governor elections or the senators elections, but the who oppose that states who oppose that who kind of support the U.S. military base said like in the Okinawan city mayor election or Nago city mayor elections or other city mayor's election or city council members election, the LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party, the current government, the Japanese government, won the elections, and then how to explain like that. So then also the Japanese High Court pointed out this to the Okinawa government in the sentence. So I thought we should show the exact number of how many Okinawans or percentage of Okinawans oppose the plan. And then that is one reason I tackled the referendum and then show the about 72% of Okinawans against it, like officially against. So it made this discussion, or like there's some people said Okinawan people agreed on this plan, so that is the full opposing is less to consider or nothing to consider. So what I did, the one thing, the referendum made the discussion clear, clear. Like that we should stand on the preposition of the 72% or the most Okinawans are against this current plan. Is the start of discussion. What I did or successfully.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that does send a very powerful message, and you express it very, very clearly. I guess if I were to play devil's advocate with a related question, I mean, you mentioned that LDP members of parliament have won in recent election. When I was out for a long time in Okinawa, there were no LDP members of the Diet for Okinawa. So they've kind of gained in strength, and my feeling is that part of that kind of shift towards a more conservative representation on Okinawa goes hand in hand with something I mentioned at the start, which is that although, as you rightly point out, the majority of Okinawans would like bases removed or reduced, at the same time, a majority, according to opinion polls, also support the US-Japan alliance. And with actions most recently, obviously we've seen in Europe, but also in East Asia with China in terms of its oppression of Hong Kong, in terms of its threats towards Taiwan, and obviously the disputed Senkaku Diaoyu Islands. So all of these things are put forward as if to perhaps change the status quo of what you talked about in terms of security dynamics. So how would you respond to the idea that bases are actually required to provide a kind of tripwire or deterrent to China's or others' aggressors' intent?
In this point, I think what is the top priority for Japan or the people in the world? Like the national security is the most priority thing, or like democracy or human rights is above that or not? Is we should discuss or think, and for me, like I'm the PhD course student, and I'm read a bunch of the US-Japan documents, foreign documents, and I will say like I understand the importance of US and Japan alliance, or but then the Okinawa prefecture or Okinawa governor, the President Deni Tamaki also said so, like understand the US-Japan alliance, and in the opinion poll also shows maybe 70%, around 70% of Okinawa support the US-Japan alliance. But It means it don't mean like the all bases are okay to in Okinawa. Just there's as I mentioned, there's troubles or incidents happen like I would say like every day or every week. So like it should be resolved or it should be changed, and like if people support the presence of U.S. military base in Okinawa, can take action. Like there's no ideological conflict between like right and left, or like we should solve the problem of waters or like the noise pollution or land or water pollution. So like that is the one thing we or the Japanese government also take action immediately. And so like how much so like yeah, that is really difficult to answer, but
Sure.
like for so for Okinawans, like there's sorry for long taking time, and we maybe you know the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and I thought in Ukraine the people are evacuating to the Poland or like next countries, but in Okinawa the islands are surrounded by oceans, so we cannot evacuate from the islands. So that is the difference between the situation. Of course, of Ukraine and Okinawa. So like then the military bases are targeted from a kind of enemy or counterpart country. So if we have military bases, it's targeted. I would say like China. So like is it so like including me, the Okinawan people tend to think we are not secure or so like is it truly like national security? Or like that in national we don't include we are not included in the national or Japanese like security.
I think it's a powerful point. Might start ask one more quick question before I open up for discussion. Relating to that, I think you make an important point in terms of the danger of deterrent, right? Creating a target as well as having a deterrent. And there is a fairly kind of coherent argument as well to say, as you mentioned, that particularly the Marines are not needed on Okinawa because they're essentially an offensive force, not a defensive force anyway. And so that perhaps one compromise might be to retain the Air Force at Kadena and basically remove most of the Marines, most of the rest of the facilities. But even if that were the case, then I mean, how would you? This is probably a more positive question. I mean, how would you then want to maximise usage of the areas that are returned? Because you mentioned the economic value.
Yes.
In a practical sense, how could that be maximised?
The return area.
Yes.
Like.
Not another like and more, I hope.
Yes. Yeah. Like, in my thoughts, well, if the Futenma Air Station will be returned, of course, some parts are a residential area, or some parts are like company area, like that. But in my opinion, like the most part, or some large part, should be remain as the to see there was a U.S. Marine bases. My base was there, like for our children or grandchildren or the future generation, and then to have a chance to think about this security issues or U.S. military problem on Okinawa, and yeah, like it's really I'm not a specialist of the economic
Sure,
thing,
sure.
so I just it has it will be like big impact to Okinawa economy
Yeah.
or population in Okinawa. So like I can say like it will be happen or so, but I cannot say exact things or
Sure.
exact plan.
I mean, part of the same question, right,
Yeah.
is the idea that the JSDF, the Japan Self-Defense
Yeah.
Forces, could replace
Mhm.
United States in a lot of forces in a lot of areas, and that is kind of happening. We've seen it on Yonaguni, we've seen it in Miyako, Ishigaki. Is that for you a concern, or is that a credible solution?
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, so I mean the SDF took
Was increasing base size,
increasing
right,
by
and
size,
scale.
yeah, true. Like that is also the problems that were in Okinawa. We need more discussion about discussion to the Japanese self-defense forces and like including Henoko their problem is part of the plan of the U.S. and Japanese military posture plan, and against China, the Japanese government, the U.S. puts bases, including the JSDF, and it's really difficult to say like the local people or maybe not more than half, but less than half are against, or like the most, of course, most residents are feel uneasy to have like missile base in Miyako Island or fire storage near their houses. So it's really what I want to point out is if the Japanese government what the Japanese government want to do is my question. Like, is there only way to higher the tension between China and Japan or even US, but they can take action of more interaction area than we don't. For example, like we don't put any military bases here, so please don't come around the islands, or like then we like kind of have held a festival in Miyako Island or Ishigaki Islands and invited Chinese people and of course Japanese people or even Taiwanese or South Korean. Then I hope the Okinawans are the frontier of the not frontier of national security, but the peaceful interaction places to make more like peaceful or Asian countries. So my question to the Japanese government is, what do you want to do? Like, what is the vision in this East Asia region or relation between among the Asian country?
Yeah.